Welcome, friend, to Life and Liberty Radio. I'm David Householder, here to encourage your pursuit of happiness. You and our partners exploring our shared spiritual journeys. Together, we're dreaming and working for a free society. Tell others today about our adventure in faith and freedom. So breathe in, open your mind, lift up your spirit. Let's get started. Well, just a few moments ago, the fiscal cliff drama ended on this New Year's Day 2013. The House of Representatives fell in line behind the Senate, which fell in line behind the mainstream press, and all three now have fallen in line behind our president. Because what we had is a problem, and this problem is annual deficits, which lead to a compound debt, and that debt creates a drag on the economy, which has created over time this incredible recession, which goes on and on and on. They tell us it's over, but is it really? So we look at this spending problem and this deficit problem, and we've got 16 trillion plus in compound debt. In order to pay that down, because we're paying so much interest every month, we have to cut the deficit every year. And over time, that will cut down the debt. It's going to take an awful long time to do that. But the truth is, we're adding to the debt every year. So we got to do something about this. So you can do one of two things. You can cut spending, or you can raise taxes. Now, which do you think would be better for the economy, cutting spending or raising taxes? Of course, cutting spending would be better. But no, they decided they would not cut spending. You heard me right. They are not going to cut spending. Instead, they are going to raise taxes. And they're going to raise taxes on everyone. And they've been campaigning that only the very rich are going to get their taxes raised. But the truth is, the poorer you are, the more your taxes just got raised. And you won't be reading about that in tomorrow's paper. You won't see that on CNN. You won't see that on this, and they're taking out that, and there's very little left. Payroll taxes come out of your paycheck. You cannot get them back. It's permanent. It's gone, and it's a regressive tax. The more you make, the less tax you pay, and I'm going to explain that in just a minute. So here's what happens. You work at the drive-thru at a fast food place, and you get a paycheck on a regular basis. That paycheck has 4.2% taken out of it for Social Security and Medicare, or so they say. It just all goes in the same pot in the federal government. But that gets taken out. That's called payroll tax. Now, technically, that is not federal income tax. That's just payroll tax. It's permanent. It's gone. You can't get it back. It's just vanishes. So that was 6.2% before the Bush era tax cuts. They brought it down to 4.2%, which improved things a great deal, which helped the economy a great deal. Much of the recovery has been a result of lowering that rate, which makes it cheaper for people to hire people as official employees. So now that's going to go back up from 4.2 to 6.2%. And here's what the newspapers are going to tell you tomorrow. Payroll taxes went up, but only 2%. But that's not actually true. 4.2% moving up to 6.2% is a, get this, 47.7% tax hike. And that's on the working poor and payroll-oriented middle-class employees. 47.7% tax increase starting today. And that'll be coming out of your checks. It's going to generate over $80-some billion, which is 3% of the budget, which is a lot. 3% of revenue, which is a lot. And that is going to propel the machine of government forward, and the working poor and the middle class who are on payroll are going to be putting in more. They're going to be contributing more to the increase in taxes than the rich. Because the rich, even if Obama had gotten his way, would have only been putting in about $80 billion themselves, even if they gotten the maximum bump in what he wanted to do, but he didn't get that. So who's going to be shouldering both the gross dollar amount and the percentage amount of the increase in taxes? That would be the working poor and payroll-oriented middle-class people who are going to be going up. Technically, it's actually between 46.6 and 46.7% of an increase, from 4.2 to 6.2. The rich, making over 400,000, are going to be going up from 35 to 39.5%, which is get this, not 47.6%, but 3.48% increase. Less than 1/10 percentage-wise what the poor and the middle class are going to be paying. So disproportionately, the working poor and payroll-oriented middle class will be paying 47.6% more in payroll tax. The rich, making over $400,000 a year, will be paying 3.48% more in income tax, which is, of course, separate from payroll tax. So basically, the rich are going to be paying a chunk. The working poor and the payroll middle class are going to be paying a huge chunk. And the Schedule C, smallest business people, the very smallest businesses, Schedule C small businesses are small businesses that have not yet been incorporated. They're not an S Corp, they're not a C Corp, they're not an LLC. A Schedule C small business will be hit hard also because they're going to be going up from 13.3% to 15.3%. And they'll say, well, that's only 2%. It's not. Do the math. That's a 15% hike. So the poor and the payroll middle class will be going up 47.6%. The smallest business people up 15%. The rich up 3.48%. And who gets off almost scot-free? That would be people making between $110,000, where the payroll taxes drop off, and $400,000. The new rates kick in. They're going to be increasing. And guess what congressmen, congresswomen, and senators make per year? $174,900, which is right in the middle of the group that gets no tax increase. How's that? So let me sum this up. If you were to look at the richest, they get a 3.5% tax increase. The small businesses, the smallest businesses, 15%. The poorest workers in the country, 47%, and those between 110 and 400 are going to be getting off almost scot-free. And the middle of that bullseye would be the people working in Congress themselves. So there will be virtually no spending cuts, perhaps no spending cuts at all. But the truth is we need spending cuts. We need really big spending cuts. And the place where we have to do it is not in foreign aid, and it's not in welfare. Those together don't even make 10% of the federal budget. So stay tuned for the solution. For the trend lines behind the headlines, listen daily to The Bottom Line on KBRT in Los Angeles, KCBC in San Francisco, KBRT740.com, worldwide live streaming, California's voice for life and liberty. The big three, the holy trinity of the federal budget, is defense, is Medicare, and is Social Security. Now you say, well, hey, we can't cut any of those, but the three of those make up the lion's share of the budget. We can't cut spending without cutting those three things. But already you're getting nervous just listening to me. What do you mean? Cutting my Social Security? Some poor grandmother in Florida is going to be in trouble. We can't do that. These are people who've paid into it. They deserve it. They've earned it. They're entitled to it. And the military, we've got to stay safe. Let me look at these three things a little bit more closely. Social Security and Medicare. Now, what he's saying, including me, we want to take Social Security and Medicare away from people who need it, who are retired. But the truth is, People over 65 in this country are one of the wealthiest demographic groups on the face of planet Earth, and a good chunk of them are multimillionaires, and virtually all of them are receiving Social Security and Medicare, and they vote in droves, and most politicians are scared to death of them because it's touching that electric third rail to vote against Social Security and Medicare. Remember Al Gore with his lockbox? Well, the truth is we need to preserve Social Security and Medicare, and the only way to do that is to take people off of Social Security and Medicare who are wealthy. We can't afford to give money to wealthy retired people in the form of a retirement check and free health care. We just can't do it, and even if we could, it wouldn't be the best use of our money. Let me give you some ugly numbers. Turns out with Social Security, in addition to our 16 plus trillion national debt, we have 16.098 as of today trillion in unfunded liabilities to Social Security. In other words, almost doubling the national debt of the United States is an amount which we've promised to our retirees, which we have no means of paying. That's not included in our debt. That's in addition to the debt. So you say, well, that's terrible. Nothing compared to Medicare. Nothing. If you think that government-run healthcare is a great idea, look at this. Medicare, we have $84.7 trillion in unfunded liabilities. Our entire national debt is only $16 trillion. $84.7 trillion in money we've promised to retirees, which we have no means of paying. But wait, add this, as of today, $21.23 trillion in prescription drug coverage we've promised to retirees on top of the $84.7 trillion that we have no means of paying. So, if we don't cut Social Security and Medicare for the wealthy, there will be no Social Security and Medicare for people who need it. It's as simple as that. And the military, we can't cut the military. We've got dangerous people out there, people like Iran, and these people make bombs and terrorists and all that stuff. The truth is, we spend as much on military as the rest of the world combined. I'm not making that up. We spend, the United States, 3.5% of the world's population. That's us. We're not even 1/20th of the world's population. We spend 50% of the world's military expenses. 50. Think about that. We have no military rivals. None. We have 12 aircraft carrier groups. China might come up with one in the next half generation. We've got 12. You and I both know, my friend. We need to cut our military. Why? Because we need to get safer. The truth is, our military makes us less safe because we have bases all around the world. And no one in the world wants a base full of foreign soldiers on their property, on their sovereignty, in their country. Nobody does. We wouldn't want foreign military bases in the United States. Nobody likes it. Deep down inside, people resent foreign military in their countries. We've got between 800 and 1,000 bases in foreign countries on every continent but Antarctica. 200 of them, over 200, are big enough, so big that we have golf courses on them. We cannot sustain that. And even if we could, it wouldn't make us safer. It makes enemies. I saw a wonderful cartoon last month. I believe it was in the Orange County Register. But basically, it was a man with a big stick hitting a hornet's nest. And the caption read, "The harder I hit, the more they sting me. The more they sting me, the harder I hit. We are the man with the stick." Teddy Roosevelt said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." So we went around the world with this great white fleet, and we've been poking around in people's business ever since. Nobody likes that. No one likes being told what to do in the world. We never had trouble